Hello again everybody, and welcome to another in a series of short videos I'm doing promoting a radical new hypothesis that challenges the standard model of both quantum mechanics and cosmology. In this video I'd like to try and put a different perspective on gravity and why I believe this has eluded being solved for such a long time, and why physicists are finding it very difficult to try and rationalise what gravity is. And when you think of gravity, I would suggest that 90% of people just think of an attractive force, which it is. But the problem is that it's then challenged that it's not a force, it's due to the curvature of space. Well, unfortunately, the description they give for that is will only work in a two-dimensional frame. Many of you may have seen it on science videos where they spread a rubber sheet out over something, then put a heavy ball in the middle of it, and then roll a smaller ball round, and it combines with the one, the heavier ball. I don't believe that that has got anything to do with gravity whatsoever. My perspective is, and what I've put in the thumbnails, is that gravity is a force, but it's not just one force, it's two forces, two opposing forces. One's a repulsive force and the other is an attractive force. And these are produced by, like I've got the title, by monopoles. And I believe, and the basis, the cornerstone of my hypothesis is that everything that exists in the universe is composed of these two monopole particles. Like I say, one is a positively charged monopole and the other one is a negatively charged monopole. You will never find the positive monopoles on their own. They will always be encompassed by the negatively charged particles, because what I claim is producing what I propose is cosmological gravity, is the repulsive force of gravity. So if you can imagine the whole universe, everything that we can see, all around us, there's a cloud of extremely, unbelievably small monopole particles called harvatrons, and they form this cloud, filling every available space in the universe other than baryonic matter. Now obviously we know that like charges repel, so these particles are trying to repel each other in every direction. Now my claim is that these particles are in fact dark matter, and the repulsive force that they produce is dark energy. And the dark energy is one of the two forces of gravity that we have. And if you consider it logically, if gravity was just an attractive force, then everything that exists in the universe, all the actual physical matter that we know of, the baryonic matter, would gradually all combine together to form one huge big lump. Plainly, that's not happening. So if we look out into space, whether it's now, 100 years ago, or whatever, in general, you might get a certain amount of matter combining or whatever. But generally speaking, the planets and the stars and the galaxies that exist all tend to stay in their relative positions. For that to happen, you've got to have a mechanism that will keep them in their relative positions. And I propose that there's this cloud of negatively charged particles throughout the whole universe that is causing this pressure to keep everything in equilibrium. Obviously, if there's an event that forces matter in a certain direction, then ultimately that's going to collide with other matter, and you will get a movement in things like what you do anyway if you get a supernova go off and this kind of thing. So from a gravity perspective, what I'm proposing is that cosmological gravity, as I put it, the repulsive force of gravity, is exactly, in both the forces, the repulsive force and the attractive force, are both exactly the same as what holds the atom together, the various components of the atom. And once again, the atom, I claim, is not made up of all these different fancy particles that are proposed in the Standard Model. I believe that the atom is composed of basically these two monopole particles. Everything that exists in the universe is composed of these two particles in various numbers. You'll realise that the negative particles, as I described, vastly outnumber the positive particles. And I would claim that the different elements, whether it be hydrogen, helium, boron, iron, whatever the atom is, the element is determined by the number of these positive particles that are contained in the nucleus. But anyway, that's another that's another video. I've done one on that, and what I do, I've done a few of these videos now. If you look, I'll leave a link below to the videos that I've done. If you look at them, bear in mind, I'm not a professional narrator. I haven't got a team working around me, so I can produce all fancy graphics and everything else. I basically psych myself up and say, right, I go for it. So if I have pauses and, it's a bit difficult to watch. Like my first introductory video was a little bit, the start of it was a bit iffy, but I'm getting used to it, so I do my best. Anyway, that's fair enough. At this stage, I would ask, if you look at my video and you're interested at all, leave a comment. More than happy to reply to anybody if they want me to explain anything better, because just sitting here like this without having all the fancy stuff to show, all the pictures and charts and everything else, I can't explain things really well. It's all contained in 2 seconds. I haven't got myself prepared. I'll get the thing that it's contained in. So, sorry about that, bit unprofessional, but it's all contained in this little book, The Two Monopole Particle Universe. And I explain how I believe the whole system works in that. But if you look at any of my videos and you like them, I would very much appreciate you to click the like button and subscribe if you want to. It doesn't cost anything, it's free. And as I say, I'd be very interested in your comments, because I haven't based any of what I'm proposing on mathematics. I've based it all on logic, and I believe that if a model doesn't work logically in the first instance, chances are it's wrong. And the problem with physics today is that everything is based on mathematics. Mathematics, yes, once you've got an idea to work on, and it works logically, but when you take things like the Big Bang and cosmic inflation, which, if anybody knows anything about physics, is completely impossible, and I'd just describe it as Alice in Wonderland physics. It just didn't happen. And I give an alternative explanation as to how you can have a non-expanding universe with no Big Bang, a universe that's been about forever, it's always existed much as it does now, and how it all interacts and works. I explain in dark matter, dark energy, and one thing and another. And I've done some of that in these videos, so if you look at those videos, you might find something of merit in it. But as far as gravity is concerned, you've not only got the attractive force of matter to matter, but you've got a repulsive force that is not only pushing on the baryonic matter, the planets, the stars and everything else, and keeping everything anchored to them, and if anything gets too close then they combine. But it's also pushing in every direction, holding all the rest of the bodies in the universe in their relative positions. It also explains why galaxies don't fly apart, which was a problem that Vera Rubin was concerned with. And this repulsive gravity, what I call cosmological gravity, and is what I would say is dark energy, is what's holding all the universes, lost the plot now, galaxies, stopping them all flying apart. So, and I maintain, as I say, the cosmological gravity and quantum gravity, in other words, the gravity applying to atoms and that, is exactly the same two forces. So if you think about it logically, it has to work like that way. It can't be just a single force. And forget about trying to combine quantum gravity with curvature of space, relativity and that. Because physicists and cosmologists are so hooked up on this idea that everything has got to conform to either what Einstein said or somebody else said years ago. I've got a great respect for these people in the past and the people now that are very, very clever. You know, they're brilliant mathematicians, but unfortunately they're all following the same lemming path of, oh, what we've been told must be right because it was said by Professor so-and-so or whatever. No, think about it yourself and look at things logically, and if something seems impossible, what's being proposed, chances are it is impossible. You know, you've got a brain that can work just as well as theirs. You can come up with ideas just the same as them. So I'm not knocking anybody. What I'm saying is that look at any problem that comes up, and these videos that are coming up now, and I've been watching these for a number of years, and unfortunately one's contradicting another one, and they're coming out with such ridiculous things like, oh, you know, are particles conscious and all this kind of thing. Rubbish. Come back to reality, come back to proper physics and mechanics, and look at the evidence, like what's coming back from the James Webb Space Telescope, which is a brilliant thing, and it's completely proving that the Big Bang didn't happen. It's not proving anything about gravity, unfortunately, which is, you know, I'm diverging from what I started off with. But what it's showing is that all the standard thinking is got a question mark over it. I'm not saying it's all wrong. There's a lot of good work been done, and there's certain things that you can't dispute because they've been proven absolutely, and they fit with logic. So I'm not knocking that. But one thing I am hoping to do is, I believe I've come up with a simple little experiment that can show the two forces of gravity that I'm referring to. And I call it the two paper strip, not the two slit experiment, two paper strip experiment. I'm not, you know, I don't spend my time doing this. I've got other work that I do and everything else. So this is basically, I'm just trying to address a problem that I've seen, and I'm a successful inventor, so I'm used to solving problems. And I saw that there's a problem with what's being proposed, and I thought, well, you know, let's have a look at the problem and see if we can find an answer to it. And I believe I have. So this little experiment I'm going to try and do a video on, but basically what it amounts to, I got two strips of paper, out of a sheet of a couple of sheets of A4, and I cut a couple of strips lengthways on it, and I suspended those with some packing between them. And you will notice that when you do that, when you look at the top where they're separated by a space, as you go down, you look at it and it gradually opens up towards the bottom. And then if you bring them closer together, if you take the packing out between and they come closer together, they come together. You have the gap down, but the two sheets of paper actually pull themselves together like that. But what tends to happen is that when you get to the bottom and you look at the bottom of the strip, they still tend to be a little bit apart. And I want to try and replicate this experiment a few times to get it where I can show it better. But what I'm proposing is that because there are two forces of gravity, an attractive force and a repulsive force, I would say that a certain distance apart, there will be repulsive gravity pushing that way, as well as attractive gravity trying to pull them together. But between the two strips, there's repulsive gravity pushing that way. So it's holding them apart. But when they get too close, they finally come together. And I would suggest that is why when we look at stars and planets and asteroids and whatever, when they're a certain distance away from a planet, a star or whatever, they will stay apart. But you come just over that threshold and then they'll be pulled together. And I think this little experiment shows it. I'm not an experimentalist, but I would very, very much like experiments by professionals to be done on this kind of thing. Anyway, I'll leave that there for now. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll probably come back again. So, best of luck, everybody. Ta-da!